I'm teaching. Yes, but before that, I suggest we'll look at some statements and have a little warm up. All right. So could you please find task A in your worksheet and let me know how many statements you can see there. Okay, Yulia, Dmitro, Maria, how many
12,
statements you see?
12.
That's right, 12.
12.
And yes, and can you guess the task?
True or false?
That's right, true or false. So your task will be to have a discussion as a group of 3 and decide whether each statement is true or false. And if you think it is false, what do you think? What do you need to do?
Change something?
Explain why and try to make it true. All right.
Yes.
So there are 12 statements. So let me give you 5 minutes for that. And your time starts now. Please don't mind me here. Just discuss. I will be just listening. All right. You can start.
So I can read first. A teacher shouldn't change anything in lesson plans. I think it's true, but maybe teacher can some details make by so I can make in my own some details.
Okay, Yulia, Dmitro, do you agree or not?
I think I agree.
Me too.
Why? So you think it's false? It's true, right?
It's false,
false,
perhaps,
I guess.
because teacher
Yeah.
can change a small issue.
Okay.
Lesson plans.
Okay, great. Go next.
The second one. It's not possible to anticipate how the lesson will go. A teacher should solve problems as they arise. I think it's true.
What about Dmitro, Maria?
Yes, I agree with you. It's true.
Me too, but also like we should be prepared for some occasions, I guess. But generally true, I guess.
Okay, that's great. Go on.
In class, a teacher should only speak his or her natural English. Totally true.
I
Yes,
also agree.
So for lesson, teacher talking time should be equal to student talking time. Maybe teaching talking time can be more, not equal. Or so it depends on part. I think maybe 60 to 50 to 40. 60 teachers, 40 students.
I personally, I think that teachers should like talk a little bit less than students. Like also 60 to 40, but the bigger part are the students.
I also agree with Metro.
Again.
So have you done it?
Yes.
All questions?
No, just
all.
Okay, so I see we have more participants now, right? I see somebody has joined. So I suggest we continue. Yeah, okay, nice to meet you. That's Marta and who else? And Salamia, nice to meet you. So as there are 6 people, yes, so we can continue in breakout sessions. So the task is the same. We need to decide whether each statement is true or false. Yes, and try to explain why you think so. So we have done the first 2 sentences, so I guess we could have 4 more minutes, okay, to discuss. Marta and Salomia, can you see the task?
Yes, I can see the task.
Great. What about Salomia? Okay, Salomia, can you hear us? Okay, so let's start. You have 4 minutes. Let's go to the breakout sessions. Salomia, can you hear me? Okay, if you can hear me, please join the breakout session. Okay, great. Let's come back. So we have some fast finishers. Have you managed to discuss all these questions, all these quotes, right? Okay. Let's wait for that. That's great. Okay, let's wait for the other participants. And I would really appreciate if you could keep your cameras on so that I know that you're here. Okay, the background doesn't matter. Okay. So they should be back. So which statement, Yulia, Salomia, Maria, Marta, have you found any true statements or false statements? Or which statements were the trickiest? Okay, group number 1, Dmytro and Maria, let's share. Which statements do you think are true?
So true were statement 7.
7, okay, 7 you think is true, right? Could you
Yes,
read it please
8.
and comment?
Okay. So when a teacher lack time, she can skip forms up, readings, or bridge between activities. I think it's true. It's true because when you are lack of time, you can give it for a homework or do next time because you have more important part of lesson.
More important parts of the lesson. What are more important parts of the lesson? What do you think?
So main part is maybe grammar, reading, and something like this. Because warm up listings, I think it's just like to relax during class and to so make brain to maybe relax.
Okay, relax. Okay, so we do
Yes.
not relax, but we study in the lesson. I see your point. Your idea is accepted. Okay, Dmytro, go on. As for you, which statement is true?
True.
Except for 7. 7 was mentioned.
I don't know, because they all seem either false or I'm not sure about them.
Okay,
or the
which
rest
is the
one.
most, which statement do you doubt the most? Let me reformulate
Probably
my question.
9.
Okay, 9. Let's read it and comment.
Whenever a teacher needs to check whether students really understand something, she should ask, do you understand? Is it clear, etc. Well, probably it's true.
Why?
Because how else would you know? But also, like, there are some situations that maybe even students don't know whether they understand it, and probably maybe only in practice you can check this.
So you want to see, to know for sure that you
maybe I could add something to that.
Go on, go on.
Well, when you ask some students, do you understand the topic? Well, you probably think of hearing a question yes or no. And sometimes students may be too shy to say that, yes, I understood the topic or the concept of a task, so they don't always say the truth by understanding what to do. So it's more, so I would say that number 9 is more, yes, it's false, because you have to ask more like a concept checking question, more relevant to the specific task which they are doing.
I want to add that we should to give them illustrative examples.
Okay, go on, Yulia. What did you say?
That's all that I wanted to add. I totally agree with Marta, and I wanted to add that we should give them illustrative examples.
Okay, so I see your point. So number 9 is a little bit tricky. We will come back to it. Okay, any other comments that you would like to add? No? Okay, so then I suggest we come back to the statements at the end of our trainings, yes? And we will discuss them again, especially number 2, 7, and 9. Agree? Still?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So So as far as you understood from these statements, we're going to talk about mistakes, but basically we are going to talk how to avoid these mistakes in teaching. Yes, we are not going to focus on some bad things like mistakes, but we are going to talk with you how to avoid them. Yes, what techniques and what methods to use in order to avoid some very common mistakes in teaching. Yeah, and of course, you as teachers should remember that the lesson starts not in class, but where does the lesson start? Yes, at home.
At home.
Before, of course. And it starts with preparation. So make sure that you do work not only in class, but you work before the class and you work at home while preparing for the lesson. So what you should remember while preparing for a lesson? First of all, of course, you should check the lesson plan and all the printouts. Yes, I really suggest that you look through all printouts and extra materials that you have in the folder and make sure that they coincide with the lesson plan. Yes, it may happen that sometimes some extra materials or some printouts do not coincide with the lesson plan. Yes, and you should notice that before the lesson and text your methodologist or a senior teacher and ask for help. Also make sure that the printouts suit the format of your lesson. I know that some of you are going to work online, so make sure that you have this printout and you will be able to use it in class. Yeah, so it should be adjusted for the online classroom. So please double check it. The next point, the next mistake that teachers usually make concerns the next statement here is about the aims. So I guess Marta will help me maybe. So what do you think when you see the lesson plan? What do you see at the top of it? The very, very top of it.
Yes, you see the main aims of your lesson. You see a topic which contains a specific vocabulary or, yes, things which you have to go through the lesson. Well, the main topic.
Yeah, the main aim, Marta, the most important thing is the main aim, because usually teachers, they make these mistakes, they go straight to the procedures, to the descriptions, yes, how to do this or that task. No, we are not focused on the task, but we are focused on the main aim. And the tasks that you have in the lesson plan are only the tools that help you to achieve the main aim. The main aim is really important because at the end of the lesson, you could look at it again and understand whether you achieved it or not, yes? And whenever you do not achieve the aim of the lesson, it would be really great if you would try to achieve it next time. Yes, of course, you should achieve it this time with this lesson, but at the end of the lesson, I really suggest you look at the main aim again, yes? And make sure that you have achieved it. It's very important. Please don't skip this tiny thing at the top of the lesson plan. And if you see that the main aim does not correspond the procedures, or you think that the procedures in the lesson plan will not help you to achieve the aim of the lesson, what do you think? What do you need to do? So you have the main aim, but when you read the lesson plan, you see that I will not be able to achieve this aim with the tasks I have in my lesson plan. What do you think? What do you need to do?
Contact your methodologist.
Yes.
Yeah, methodologist, of course, will help. And with time, you'll be able to make some changes maybe to the lesson plan, yes, and double check the tasks, yes, and maybe reformulate the main aim of the lesson. Next, what we have here, of course, you need to adapt materials for your group and for the format. As I have already mentioned, make sure that all the materials you have in the folder are applicable for online classroom. For example, games like, I don't know, gallery work, when you have to go around the classroom and discuss some questions, yes, when students have to go, it will not be applicable for online learning, and you will be able, you will have to adjust them somehow, yes? So make sure, but also double check the materials and make sure they correspond your group, their interests, their preferences. For example, you see a picture of a celebrity that you need to discuss as a leading, yes? like to make them interested in the topic. And you know exactly that your students don't care about this celebrity, but they are really fond about some other celebrity. So it's okay if you change one picture, yes, for a lead-in, and make these materials more interesting for your learners. So you can, of course, during first months of your work, you should contact your methodologist and agree about these changes. But please make sure that if you want to do it, you can do it, yes, and do it. The next we have here, anticipate problems and be ready with solutions. We have just discussed the point that we should solve all the problems when they arise in the classroom. But here we have anticipation. What do you think? What problems, while preparing, we could anticipate? What do you think? Problems concerning what? So you're just preparing for a lesson. So what problems could you anticipate? You know your students, you have the materials.
Maybe some lack of materials, or maybe something like this, because you know your students and you know what they need. So, and you can find lack of materials for this group.
For example, your group works very fast. Yes, Maria?
Yes, yes.
And you see from the plan that they will cope with all the tasks in 60 minutes, but you have 80 minutes, yes?
Yes.
So that's the problem with time management. So what would you have to do in this case, Maria?
So of course to ask methodologist, but also to find something like warm up, something games in Quizlet or Quizlet. Also, yes, in Quizlet.
So prepare some extra materials, right? So that's great. Accepted. What other problems could we anticipate?
Or on the other hand, students can be so low, and you can do all materials that are in this plan, and you should something get away.
Yes, or vice versa, slowly, yes, and you will have to skip some tasks, right, Julia?
Yeah.
Also a problem with time management. Any other problems? Okay, so you usually in the lesson plan, you have interaction patterns, yes? Have you seen them? Especially Marta, yeah? So of course, you know your students and you know exactly that they prefer individual work, for example, for, I don't know, for some grammar tasks, yes? But in your lesson plan, you have pair work. You could anticipate that your students would do it better if they work individually, yes? So you could change interaction patterns, right? What else? Any other guesses? Could we anticipate that our learners would not cope with some grammar or vocabulary? What about the language itself? So you say the topic, for example, past perfect, but you know your learners, what problems could you anticipate? Give me any ideas.
They can't understand it, and you must to repeat it and explain again.
That's right. For example, the better example would be with the conditionals, right? In order to make a conditional sentence, conditionals, yes, they need to know some tenses, verb tenses. For example, in order to make a conditional two, they need to know past simple, yes? So, and you know exactly that students struggle with past simple. So you could anticipate that it would be difficult for them. So I need to remind them about past perfect, past simple, yes, and then go to conditionals or whatever. So try to anticipate problems not only with management, with managing the class, but also with the language, okay? And of course, be ready with the solutions. So if you could anticipate a problem, you should come up with a solution. And like students can ask you any question in class, yes, and you should be ready. You should be ready with some solutions. Okay, and of course, it shouldn't be mentioned, but anyway, I want to remind you, especially for those who are going to work at the offices, yes, you need to download all the materials to your laptop. If you work online, you should open all the links to all online games. You should check them beforehand, yes. You will not have time during the lesson to check and open all links like when your students are there, yes. So please do it beforehand. And the last thing that the last mistake concerning preparation that teachers tend to make is about lacking knowledge. Of course, your level of English is quite advanced, and you know, teachers rely on their knowledge, and they know, okay, I know this grammar, I know this vocabulary. It would not be difficult for me to teach it, yes. But in fact, sometimes it turns out to be really difficult to explain some grammar, even if you know it. So before you come to the class, make sure that you know the topic yourself. So what does a teacher need to know about the language he or she is teaching? So for example, what do you need to know about the vocabulary in order to be able to teach it? Okay, who wants to help me?
So maybe
Okay, go
I
on,
don't-
Maria.
all, not all, but as minimum to be higher than students. I don't know.
You're already your level of English should be higher than that of your
Yeah,
students, yes?
yeah.
But what, for example, you need to teach some means of transport, like a set of 10 words. What do you need to know about that with those 10 words?
How to pronunciate it?
Well
First
done.
of all, yes, meaning of these
course.
words.
That's right.
Mm.
And what else?
And maybe
The last one, Maria?
to some examples in sentences, because words without sentences it doesn't work.
Of course, it would be great,
Also,
but you will,
and also which
Go
part
on.
of speech it is, this word.
which, that's right, which part of speech? Very nice. What else? So do you know exactly how to write "wickle"? Everybody knows. So I'm talking about what? If you need to teach the word, you need to know pronunciation, meaning, and
the spelling of the word.
That's right, spelling. Thank you, Marta. So you need to know exactly how to write this word. Yes, not only to write, but you should be able to spell it really fast to your students. Yes, letter by letter, especially if we talk about higher levels. Okay, let's talk about grammar. So you need to teach present simple. What do you need to know about present simple?
How it form,
very nice.
when we need to use it.
Meaning, yes.
Yeah, meaning.
Time expressions.
That's right. Time expression, time markers. And the last one. When we add endings as, es, do we change the pronunciation of verbs somehow?
Yes, of course.
Do you need to know how to pronounce those variations? So I'm sure you know, yes, you naturally pronounce them correctly, but you as teachers should know, like exactly in which case we pronounce es, in which case we pronounce s, and in which case we pronounce z, right? So you as teachers should know that. So for that, you could use dictionaries or grammar books, yes, in order to get prepared for the lesson. By the way, who could share? What is your favorite grammar book? What grammar book do you use?
Different, but my teachers so used Murphy.
Okay, Murphy is a nice book.
Like a basic book for grammar.
But you have different levels, yes?
Yes.
That's right. You can consult, why not? Okay, what about dictionaries? What is your favorite dictionary? I would like to share.
Cambridge Dictionary favorite.
Me
Cambridge.
too.
Uh-huh.
Longman Dictionary.
That's very nice because it gives you the definition in English, right? Without any translation.
Yes.
That's right. I suggest you also choose your favorite collocation dictionary, right? In order to check, some of you has mentioned about collocations and sentences. Yes, it's maybe like a dictionary where you could check like antonyms and synonyms. All right, that's great that you have your favorite grammar and vocabulary books. So whenever you're ready and you come to class, communication starts. Yes, communication with students starts. And that is the second point that we are going to discuss with you, and what mistakes we can make with communication. Yes, any guesses? I'll show you the slide and you will see everything. Yeah, let me show you this way. Can you see my slide, right? That's great. So the first mistakes that teachers might make, and actually that is a rule at Green Country, that we try to avoid, not we try, but we should avoid language one. Yes, language one is Ukrainian. So we should speak English only at Green Country, even during the breaks. And if we talk about online classes, also students might join you earlier, or they may like leave the class later. Even during these breaks, even when you do not teach them, you should communicate in English only. Yes. And it's your task as teachers to teach your students use English only during, for example, beginners, of course, they will not be able to express themselves in English, but they will use some Ukrainian words at the beginning of the course. But your task as teachers to help learners to express themselves in English with time. Classroom language will help you a lot, and we will talk about classroom language today. Any guesses what classroom language is?
English.
Of course, that's English. So these are phrases and words that students might need during the class. For example, help me please, or may I go out? So these are state like phrases that students need to use during the class, like any class. Of course, you think that it might be difficult, yes, to speak English only with your students, but if you simplify your language somehow, and if you demonstrate, yes, with gestures, students will be able to understand you, especially with young learners. You can use your body language, you can use gestures, your facial expressions, yes, to help them understand what you want to say. Yes, Maria, you raised your hand.
So I want to ask, so for example, if it's a low level of language, so can I translate something for them?
Yeah, that was my question actually. So in what cases do you think translation might be used if we talk about lower levels?
For example, to explain some grammar rules, or to explain what to do.
Instruction should be in English. Look, if you use simple language, and if you teach your students classroom language, they will be able to understand what match means, what listen means. If you use gestures, if you give the demonstration, for example, you could demonstrate how to do the task. Yes, you, for example, need to fill in the gaps. So you choose the first sentence and you do it together with your students, right? Then students see the example and they will be able to do the same. No, not in these cases. In what cases do you think we can use English? In very, very rare cases. I guess Metro is not here. So Julia, Maria, Salomia, any guesses? So we can use translation only when we need to explain the meaning of some abstract words. Yes, for example, first you try to demonstrate, you try to show, you try to draw what you mean. But if your students do not understand and you see that translation will help you to not to waste time during the class, and it's the last chance, yes, to explain your students what this or that word means, in this case, you can translate. Or for example, when you face situations when younger learners, I don't know, are upset, or they are lost, or they cannot find how to click this or that button on Zoom. In these cases, you can use Ukrainian. In all other cases, please simplify your language, demonstrate, use body language, gestures, facial expressions, use examples, do your best, yes, and use English only. We will talk about classroom language. It will help you a lot, yes, to have this rule English only in your class. Then, of course, you should grade your language. Grade means you should adapt your language, your level of English to the level of your students. So, for example, we have started talking about beginners. Of course, you should speak slowly and with pauses. Now I'm talking like naturally without any pauses, like the pace of my speaking is really high. But when, for example, I teach beginners, I speak slowly and I take some pauses. So why do you think, why do we need to do these pauses, to make these pauses in our speech when we talk to like lower levels, to beginners?
So they can clearly hear every word and get to and understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. So basically, we need to give them time to digest the information. Yes, some students need even to translate the information, then formulate the idea in their language one, and then say the idea to the class. So make sure that you have this pauses in your speech when you teach beginners, and you speak slowly. Yeah. Of course, it should sound naturally with very nice pronunciation, yes, but make sure students are able to digest. Of course, you can use simpler grammar and vocabulary. And if students do not understand, you can say things in different way. For example, students do not understand the verb match, yes, you can use the verb to connect, yeah, or you can show match, connect. If you teach teenagers, be careful. Make sure you do not patronize your students, so they don't feel that they are stupid, yes, at some point, because you're speaking really slowly to them and with a lot of pauses. Yeah, be careful. Your speech should be balanced. So I guess we should practice a little bit, yes, with grading language. I suggest we look at task B in your worksheet, or you can look at my screen. So let's try to talk about beginners, yes? Not beginners, but elementary learners. So we have a group of young learners, step 9, 10. Who can help me? How old are these students? Step
So
9,
first,
10.
What will we do in this task?
Okay, let's first decide who are they, who are these learners, how old they are, and what level of English they have.
So young, it's 9, 10 years.
Maybe 9, yes, 8 possible. And what level of English do they have?
A2.
Yes, they do.
No, they have pre A1.
Yeah,
So
A1,
they are
elementary.
yes, they're quite young, which they can be like 11 or 10 years old.
So usually 8, 9 years old, and they're elementary. Yeah, so they can read exactly already. They know some basic grammar and they know some basic words. So they are elementary learners. So here are the examples of teachers' sentences, teachers' instructions or comments or feedback, but something is wrong with all these statements, yes? These statements are not graded to the level and the age of the students. So your task will be to read each statement, each sentence, and grade it accordingly, yes, to help young learners, step 9, 10, understand it. All right? So how many, so we have A, B, C, D, E. So we have 10 sentences, and you will be working in pairs, all right? What do you think? Do you need to take notes, or will you be able to memorize everything?
I think we can memorize it.
Okay, you can move it. Okay, so let's try to do the first one together. I will help you with the first one, okay? What are we supposed to do in this task? So what is wrong with this sentence? What are we supposed?
Supposed.
That's right. That might be too difficult, yes?
Yes, maybe just what we will do.
What
We need to do.
need? Okay, need is all right for this. Or what do we do? Yes? Yeah, what do we do in this task? Okay, great. So let me put you into breakout sessions and I give you 4 minutes for that. Let's go. Maria and Marta, you will be working together. Yulia and Salomia, you will be working together. If you cannot access the worksheet, please take a screenshot. All right? So let's go. Metro, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is everything all right? Okay, Metro, we're doing task B. So please join the room if you can and join the discussion. So I hope you managed.
Yes.
So, did you find any really nice examples here, or like,
Yes.
would you?
I
just-
like the most
Uh-huh.
affirmative or interrogative, so positive and negative statements.
Why don't you like these two words?
Because it's just so difficult.
Okay, how would you change this statement?
So positive and negative, affirmative, positive, interrogative, negative.
And
It's questions,
statements, we
questions.
can use sentences.
Oh, yeah, statements or sentences, that would be better. Great, thank you, Maria. Any other? Choose one and share your ideas. The simpler the better.
Maybe I would say with the sentence E,
Mhm.
don't forget to do your self-study, number 6.
Very nice. Thank you, Marta. Yeah, by the way, you need to remind them every lesson. So please try to do it like precisely. Yes, just don't forget to do self-study, and that's enough. Okay, let's move next. And of course, the last problem or mistakes that teachers might face concerns teacher talking time. What do you think? What is teacher talking time and what is student talking time in class? So how much should a teacher speak and how much should a student speak in class?
I think the teacher should to explain materials, and after it, students need to speak about these items or rules or something like that.
So if we have like 100% of a lesson, yes, 100% of time. So how many percents would go for a student or for students, yes, in our case? And how many percents would go to a teacher?
I think that for students, 60%, and for teacher, 40%.
Okay. Does everybody agree?
Yes.
So almost, yeah, it might be 40 and 60, yes, if we talk about beginners or elementary learners, but the ideal figures that we should strive to have in our lessons is 30% of a teacher and 70% of students, yeah? So try to control that, try to control yourself and reduce your teacher talking time. How can we do that? First of all, we should give students the time to think and prepare. For example, you ask a question, yes? What usually, how we usually work? We ask a question and we expect an immediate answer, an immediate response from a student, yes? It's not possible. Students need to think and then they need to prepare maybe the answer and give you back the response. So please do not push students, yes, with a lot of words, with a lot of questions. Do not repeat the same question twice or 3 times. Let students think, yes? In this way, you may reduce your teacher talking time, yes? And give student a chance to respond, to speak. The second way how we could avoid teacher talking time is by eliciting. That's what Yulia has just mentioned, yes, explanation. So we try to reduce explanations, yes? We try not to explain too much in class. We need to elicit. Elicit means we need to give students leading questions, prompts, and help them answer the question. For example, you need to explain the grammar, yes? Maybe it's difficult for you now to imagine that because maybe in the past you used to do it in a different way, but we try to elicit. You need to explain the grammar. For example, past simple. So, but you need to reduce teacher talking time at that time, yes? So how to avoid explanations? You would just give an example on the board. For example, I went to school yesterday. That's just the simplest example, yes? And eliciting means that you, with the help of this question, you ask questions, leading questions, and with these questions, you help students to explain the rules. For example, you ask, guys, are we talking about past or present? Students would answer about the past. Where is the verb? Went. So whatever. So you use leading questions, you use eliciting, and in this way, your students speak while you are just asking or prompting them. So, Yulia, I guess that's clear. Yes, with eliciting. But if
Yes,
you want
I
teachers
got it.
guide and read more about eliciting. Yeah, that's great. So make sure to reduce your teacher talking time in class because now I speak too much. You should speak more. Any questions so far? No? Okay, great. And by the way, eliciting might also happen even with gestures without any words. Yes, when you do it this way, yeah, or you just like give them some hints. Yes, so if you do it regularly, students will get used to your gestures and they will understand that they need to continue speaking, or they need to correct the mistake, or they need to make a negation or whatever. Great, let's go next. So communication is done, preparation is done. When we come to the classroom, there is like often the problems with the discipline arises, yes? And how to avoid this problem? Actually, discipline is not the problem of students. I would say that's an issue of a teacher. Can you hear
Yeah.
me? Yeah. Okay, you don't have cameras again. Could you please turn on your cameras? I really appreciate, because it seems that I'm talking to myself. So, and that is actually the problem, the mistake that a teacher makes. A discipline is poor when there are no routines and rules in class. Do you agree or not?
Yes.
You don't
You
hear,
have very bad connection.
right? Okay. Okay. Can you hear now? And now, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear, but can see you.
Okay, and Salomia, Yulia, Marta, can let me try.
Your connection is so poor.
So the question is, yes, when should you set up routines and rules? What do you think?
To keep, I don't know, to keep some atmosphere.
Of course, but when you should do that?
So when you, so maybe in the first lesson to explain all rules. So
Actually, yes. So all teachers say the same. You should do it at the very first lesson, but I don't know why, but some teachers, maybe because they're nervous or overwhelmed because it is the first lesson of the term, and many teachers, and like me, including me, we forget about like settings, rules, and routines from the very, very beginning. And when it's lesson 3 or 4 already, it will not be possible to set rules and routines. It like you will not be able to correct this mistake. So please be careful, like put a note or reminder for yourself that rules and routines should start from the very, very first lesson of your course. Yes, of course, we have Green Pantry will provide some posters, yes, with the rules like this or like this, what students should do in class, what they should not do in class. But actually, you should communicate these rules with your students. Students should agree, yes, like officially, they should agree to follow these rules. And even it's possible if you work especially at the office, you can also ask them for their signatures. And it would be really great if you could add your own rules to these posters. So you could discuss with your students what rules they would like to follow, or what rules they are ready to follow, yes, during the course. And you could add these rules to these posters. I suggest we work in pairs again, and we brainstorm some rules and routines that we could add for offline or online classrooms. If I'm not mistaken, Marta, you're working at the office, right?
Yes, I work offline.
Great. And Salomia, if I'm not mistaken, you're going to work mainly offline, right? So you will be working
Offline and online.
but offline as well, yes? So
Yeah.
Salomia and Marta, you will be working together and you will brainstorm rules for offline classroom and offline classroom, yes? Imagine your students at the office. What rules do you need? And Maria and Yulia, you will be talking about online classes and what rules you need. Of course, they will differ. Yeah, if we talk about offline and online, they should differ. So please find task C, or you can use any kind of notebook, whatever you have with you. So let's have 3, 4 rules that you think you could add, all right? Especially for your students. So let's go. Let me give you 4 minutes for that. So how many rules do you need to come up with?
4.
4, that's right. So, so Salomia will be working with Marta and Maria, Yulia together. Marta, Salomia, what type of classroom are you talking about?
We're talking about offline.
That's right, Yulia and Maria.
Online.
Let's go. Task C. Okay, come back, come back. So, who will start? We have Anna Maria
can
and
you
Julia
read?
online.
Yeah, I
You
can.
have,
We shouldn't
okay, go on.
wait for
Let's go.
girls. Okay. First one, raise your hand when you want to speak. Second one,
Okay, raise your hand on Zoom.
yes,
Like raise like
online.
this.
Yes, on Zoom. Yes, online. We talk
Emoji.
about online. Emoji.
Emoji. Okay.
Mhm. Have proper nickname all time.
That's right, so that you can remember their names, right?
Yeah. And camera should be on all time. And don't interrupt when someone else speak.
No interruption.
So
Agree.
to say it
Okay.
in the first lesson.
Now let's listen. Girls are not ready yet. Okay. Marta and Salomia, are you here?
Yes, we're here.
Okay. Could you please share what rules you have come up with?
Okay, well, for offline classes, we thought of a rule where if there is an individual task, students can't interact with each other, so it is important to focus on task individually until it's done. Well, if there's a task which requires a student to do it individually, students can't interact with each other. So, yes,
such a strict rule.
Well, no, it's a little bit maybe, but I think it would show good results in their in coping with the tasks. Okay. Also, a rule which I use with my class, that if a student wants to go out, they have to say that in English, of course, because some of them, because my group doesn't always like to talk in English, but I mention them that they have to. So if they want to go out, they have to say the phrase, "May I go out?" And they can only go out after they hear my response that they may or may not, and only one at a time.
Only one student, yes?
Yes, one at a time. So if someone's out of the class, they have to wait until the other student comes back, and only then.
Like an ongoing process, yes?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay, I see. But the very first rule is quite strict. Okay, but let it be. It's your rule. If your students have agreed to follow that rule, that's nice. Yes, Maria, you raised your hand.
So I need to go because my co-working is closing. So I will try to connect with my 3G internet, but I don't know how it will work. So
okay.
If I can't, I will check presentation after training.
You could text Oля about that, okay?
Okay.
So we have Marta and Yulia. Yeah, Yulia, are you here? Yeah, great. So we have only two of you. Okay, so let's continue. And let's talk about the classroom language. Actually, Marta has already mentioned, "May I go out?" It's an example of classroom language, yes? Because if you haven't taught this language, yes, this phrase to them, they would say it in Ukrainian, yes? They would say it but that's great that you have taught them. So what other phrases can we use as classroom language? You can find some examples on the worksheet, or you can give your own examples.
Can you help me?
Yes, can you help me? What else?
Can you give me a pen if it's offline?
Okay, give me something, please. Yes. What else?
Can I go away for a minute?
Why not? So what do you think? What is the best way, like to keep the record, like to have this language? For example, if we talk about offline classes, Marta, do you have these phrases somewhere on the wall or on the board?
Actually, no, I don't have them on the board. We have the posture with rules, but I have usually try to. Okay, I'm losing my mind.
You usually remind them orally, yes?
Yes. We usually talk this through, and I ask them, okay, so if you want to go out, what do you have to say? And my group usually says together, so we practice to say the phrases and to what they understand, what they mean.
I see. But it's a nice idea to have them somewhere on the wall. Yes, a set of phrases that you need most of all. Yes, so it can be just a simple sheet of paper. Yes, with phrases. Why not? You can just only draw students' attention there, right? If you work online, that's for you. You can also create a document. Yes, you actually in some lesson plans you have already some provided. But you can have a list of phrases and you can look through them at the beginning of the course. Yes, and from time to time, remind your students that we have such phrases, you can use them in order to avoid Ukrainian, right? Okay, but actually that's not everything that helps you to keep the discipline in class and like keep these routines and rules. So in order to do that, you should have nice relationships with your students. Yes. So one more time, what rapport is? What is it? How do you understand it?
To make a connection with students.
That's right. And here are some ideas. Yes, that like the ideas how you can do that. Yes, how it's possible. I have highlighted some of the ideas. Please look through all of them. There are about 10 or 11, yes, and let me know whether you have anything to add. Okay, let me give you 1 minute. Okay, anything to add here? Okay, I'll give you 30 seconds more. So, Marta, Yulia, anything to add? Maybe something else could help you.
Really nothing special because everything has already mentioned.
So the ones that I highlighted, yes, of course, you should learn the names of everyone in the class. That is mistake that you need to avoid. Yes, you should know from the very beginning the names of all your students. Actually, you know the names of your students before the lesson, before the first lesson of the course, you will have the access, yes, to the list of students. So I suggest you look through them. And in the very first class, one of you has mentioned about renaming, yes? So if you work online, you can see their names on Zoom, and that is easy. If you work at the office like Marta, you can create pages. Yes, you can provide pages for the first 2-3 lessons. It's okay because you need to learn their names, but it's much better to use pages than to, I don't know, to address your students like with the wrong name or say, hey, you in a black t-shirt, please answer. So it's not possible. Yes, you should respect your learners and you should learn their names. Okay, this next one that I highlighted is about setting rules and routines that students agree on. So if your students do not agree from the very beginning, I don't know, about some rules, they will not follow it. Yes, so you should agree. You should receive this agreement, you know, and then everything will be all right with your rules and routines. And of course, praise learners as much as possible. To correct some mistakes, to give some feedback, and not only positive but negative, yeah, but really to praise yours as possible, students or students. Okay, let's move next. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yes, show me in.
Didn't quite hear if you were saying something. Maybe the connection's bad.
Okay, here, yes. Okay, let me know when you can hear me again. I'm sorry for the connection issues at the office. So, and if it talks, yes. It's better now, yes? Is it better now? Yes?
Yes, now it's better.
Now it's better. Great. So let's move. And of course, whenever we praise our learners, it motivates them. Yeah? So let's talk a little bit about motivation, because actually teachers are really focused on lesson plans and materials, on the main aims, but please don't forget about motivation. So how to motivate learners? Marta, maybe you have already some tricks or tips how to motivate learners.
Yes, we for a good done task, or if a student got a question right or showed a lot of work, then we write on the board countries. So students can receive countries for a task that they did quite good, or when they were or if they were quite active on the lesson. So first they can have countries for a done self-study, which they did wrong. And during the lesson, they can also earn countries, which is quite motivating, I'd say.
Yeah, but like, what about teenagers?
Well, for them, I would say I actually don't really know about teenagers. Well, for the younger students, it's quite interesting, but I would say when a good motivation for a student can be to let them know that they're doing a great job. Don't forget to say that, okay, yes, you got this phrase very good, or you're showing a lot of work. Yes. And let them know that that they're doing a good job, or if they have some mistakes which they're making, don't forget to notice them and help them to grow better, and let them know how well some pronunciation may be right, or let them know.
Basically, yes. Yes, sure. We should, as I have mentioned, yes, we can give feedback and we can correct them. That's all right. But don't forget about praising. Of course, praising helps. What else helps to motivate is when a teacher shows an interest in learners, in individual learners. So it really motivates a learner to communicate with the teacher, to do the task the teacher asks them to do when teacher is interested in learners. So you might share I don't know, something about your personal life, like not too personal, and ask your learners about about their achievements, yes, outside the classroom. Or you can ask them what they were doing like last week, or where they have been like recently, something that connects, that is connected with their like personal life, with the life outside the classroom, like by showing interest. Of course, learners are more motivated when the teacher tries to provide activities or the interaction patterns that they prefer. So you can match, like match is not maybe a nice word, but yeah, you can match the way the learners prefer to learn and choose the activities that learners enjoy. For example, some groups, some learners do not enjoy playing Kahoot, but they prefer playing Quizlet. So it may happen. Or some learners prefer, as I have already mentioned, like on some tasks, or some learners prefer listening, for example, to the audio like individually, or vice versa. They prefer like listening all together with pauses when the teacher is in charge. So when you meet all these preferences, students are more motivated. The question is, how can I know about their preferences? Yes. So what you can do at the very beginning of the course, you could conduct a needs analysis. I have provided a QR code here, so you can find an example here. I would not focus that much on the needs analysis, but just briefly. A needs analysis, it's a short questionnaire where you could ask students to tell you about their interests, about their hobbies, about the ways they prefer to be taught, about the activities they enjoy. So you can put any questions that would help you in future, yes? For example, you can make a question, which game do you prefer? Yeah, and you can make a list. Simon says, find someone who, Quizlet, Kahoot, and etc. So your learners answer this question, and then you see that all your learners, for example, prefer Quizlet. Yes, so you will use Quizlet next lesson, or like several lessons. Students will see that the teacher chooses the activities that they really enjoy, and it will like keep them motivated. So you can put any question on this needs analysis, or for example, oh, maybe you can give me an example. What question would you like to put there? What question, like what answer would you like to receive from your students that could help you?
What do you prefer to do in your free time?
How can it help you in class?
I will know what they like to do, what they inspired in.
For example, you would have, I don't know, 4 football players in your classroom, right?
I will give them text about football players or something else.
Or for example, like the text is like maybe too much, yes, but you would prepare a lead-in about a football player or whatever, yes? Okay, Marta, your ideas?
Okay, also about hobbies which they have, which can be sometimes relevant to the topic of the lesson, or well, maybe you need to think a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
Kind of don't have anything on my mind right now.
I actually can put any questions, even regarding the types of work, like individual, do you like to work in like in pairs, or I don't know, anything that you really need for the lesson in order to build this good rapport with your students, and in this way motivate them. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. Here I put the examples. Marta has told us everything about the contracts. Just a kind reminder, don't forget to keep the track, yes, of students' performance on the board or using online services. Yes, it's easy to do that on the board when you have like the offline lesson. You just put names on the board and you put stars or flowers or hearts. And then at the end of the lesson, you count the stars and it gives that amount of contracts. If you work online, you can use online services, for example, Class.Dojo, or you simply can use Zoom, for example, by giving pluses like this. For example, Yulia, thank you so much for your answer. Yes, I'll give you 2 contracts for that. Yes. So you see, Yulia has got 2 contracts, or Marta also, thank you so much for your answer. I give you like 3 extra contracts. So you can do it really fast and students will see how well they perform in class. They should see it, all right? It will be more motivating for them. Any questions so far? No? Or yes? Okay, let's move next. We have 2 more sections that we need to discuss with you. And the next section concerns the lesson flow. Okay, so my question would be, what is a lesson flow? Can anybody help me?
Well, I would say it's the balance between the tasks that we have in the class. So it wouldn't go like from first. Well, at first, at the beginning of a class, you have to have a reminder or about the topic that we learned on the previous lesson. Then, well, we like have, yes, well, the flow or a balance between all tasks, which will show that a fulfilling concept. And will lead from one to another with kind of a harmony. And
yeah, like a chain, yes?
Yes. So it wouldn't be like, okay, now we're doing task number 1. Okay, did you do task number 1? Okay, let's go to task number 2. And so, well, you have to make, you have to give a meaning to every task and make
to the
them more
previous
interesting.
task and connect it to the next task, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so everything should be logical, yes, and the lesson should be, first of all, smooth. That's something that Marta has just explained, and it should be balanced. Smooth, it means that everything should be connected to each other. Like first one should be connected to the next one, and the next one should be connected to the following task, and so on and so on. So it should be all logical. So you cannot start talking about space and go to past simple and then come back and talk about space. Yes, it would not be logical. Yes. So you should logically connect all the parts of your lesson. Actually, everything is provided in the lesson plan. But what makes a lesson really smooth, that is these tiny things: lead-ins, bridges, icebreakers, warm-ups, time fillers, and coolers. So actually, in your lesson plan, sometimes they're very, very tiny things, like bridges. They're very short. It might be only a 1 question, but this question is very meaningful. It will take you, I don't know, 5 seconds to use that bridge, but that bridge will help you to connect the first part of your lesson and the second part of your lesson. And if you skip that bridge, your students will not see any logic in what you're doing. Yes, it will be like not logical at all. So please try not to skip all those tiny things in your lesson plans. By the way, how do you understand the word, like what's the difference, yes, between a lead-in and a bridge? Because you have mentioned lead-ins, what about bridges?
It's perhaps when one unit or is connected with another one, and it's smoothly go on to the another one.
Yeah, that's right. So it connects, yes? Okay, and what about time filler? So for example, you have some extra time. Yes, you say that you are done with the listening part of your lesson and the next part is production, but you see that you have some free time, some extra time. Yes, so you need to fill somehow this time. Yes, and logically you would give an extra activity here. Yeah, and we call it a time filler. I suggest we look next and we talk about what makes a lesson balanced. So these tiny things, lead-ins, bridges, time fillers, they make the lesson smooth, logical, right? But any ideas what makes a lesson balanced?
The lesson has to be balanced with activities which students do individual, with groups, in pairs. They can have tasks where they have to fill in gaps with the words, or then they have to listen to an audio. If those are younger students, then they have to have balance between the time when they sit on a task and when they move on and have an interaction activity, so which will keep them focused and not bored.
That's right. Yes, thank you. So, but actually that's also applicable to an online class. Yes, in an online class, we can also have settling activities and storing activities. Yeah, so settling activities are activities where students read or write. So they basically sit and they do some monotonous work. Monotonous may be not a very nice description, but anyway, then when students write or read, yes, and then after such tasks, we need to give some storing activities, some games, or even we talk about young learners and we talk about online classroom, it's also possible to let your students stand up and dance and move, or I don't know, play like Simon says, or touch something. It's also possible. So make sure that whenever you teach a lesson, it is balanced. So you have first settling activities when they write, read, then you have some active activities, like not active, but storing activities when they play games, when they compete, like some competitions maybe, or online games, or even some moving games, even if we talk about an online classroom. So I suggest we look at some real lesson plans. It's task D in your worksheet. And let's see how it looks like in the lesson plan. So if you follow the QR or the link in your worksheet, you will find some lesson plans. Please let me know if you have the access to them.
I'm from my phone right now, and I don't think I can.
I will give you the link to the chat, right?
Okay, that would be helpful.
Okay, 1 second. Okay. So you have the link in the chat. Can you see the chat box? Yes. That's great. Yulia, what about you? Do you see the lesson plans? Yeah. So the task will be to check whether these lesson plans, these lessons are smooth and balanced. So in order to find it out, you need to check whether there are any lead-ins or bridges and what are they about. You need to check whether the plan includes a warm-up or an icebreaker, and if there are any settling and storing activities and if they are in the correct order. Yeah, so you need to answer these 3 questions in order to make sure that these lessons are balanced and smooth. Let me give you 6 minutes for that. You will be working in a pair, all right? Please talk to each other and please answer these 3 questions. One more time, do you see the lesson plans?
Yes, yes.
How many questions do you need to answer?
3.
3. That's right. So let's go. I will put you into a breakout session so that you don't feel shy, okay? Let's go. I'll see you in 6 minutes. Let's go. Okay, so you're back. Wait for Marta. Okay, Marta is not here. Yulia, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay, I guess Yulia will join us. So have you managed to discuss everything?
Not everything, but a lot of.
Okay, so have you found the leadings, that bridges that helps the lesson to be smooth?
Yes, it was enough in each section.
In all lesson plans, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And what about balance? All those lessons, were they balanced? Did you find any stirring activities together with settling activities?
Yeah, there was. I really don't remember every one of them. But there was some activities that children need to stand up
and move, right?
Yeah.
That's great. So we should keep that in mind, because sometimes teachers make mistake and they skip some important parts, yes, and they move like very fast, and in this way the lesson like is not that balanced, is not that smooth. Okay, great. Let's move next. The last section that we're going to talk about concerns management. So what do you think? What problems might we have here? So I put here only 4 sections. Yes, the first one, instructions, grouping, monitoring, and feedback. So basically, these are teaching techniques, yes, that we usually use in class. And of course, we can make mistakes somehow. So let's try to match with you these terms on the left with tiny explanations, with brief explanations on the right, okay? Let me give you 1 minute to look through these yellow squares, okay? And be ready with the answers.
Okay.
Okay, 1 minute. I will give you 1 minute. Okay, let me know when you're ready, and we will try to match. Marta is back. Let me accept you.
I'm already ready.
Okay, great. So let's match. So if we talk about instructions, we should remember that they should be what?
Short, clear, attention, grabber, ICQs, and time limits.
That's right. So let's talk about these very common mistakes that teachers make. First of all, the first problem is that, not problem, but the mistake that teachers might make concerns attention. So sometimes teachers start giving instructions before they draw students' attention. When there is no attention and you give instructions to your students, they will not listen to you. Agree?
Of course.
Yes, so first thing that you need to do is to grab the attention with the help of attention grabber. So attention grabber is a short phrase, like even a rhyme, that you can use in order to draw attention. For example, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. If you hear me, please look at me. So what task are we doing now? So it might be any question or even like a statement, a rhyme that you use in order to draw students' attention. When you see that everyone is looking at you, everyone is listening at you, listening to you, you can start giving instructions. When you give instructions, instructions, of course, you need to keep in mind that your instructions should be really short and clear. So your instructions could not like be very long. I don't know, like 3 or 4 sentences are already too many for instructions. If you have very long instructions, for example, students need to first read the text and then answer the questions, you can split the instructions into 2 parts. First, you can ask students to read the text, and when they are done with the reading, you can ask them to do some other tasks. Yes, so make sure that instructions are not too long and they should be clear. We have talked about that a little bit. Yes, you should grade. For example, don't use very complicated grammar or very complicated vocabulary in your instructions. Just make sure they are clear. When you have already done given instructions, yes, you need to check whether students have understood your instructions. And in this case, what do we use?
We need to give them a question.
That's right. What do we call it?
ICQs.
That's right. ICQ, instruction checking questions, right?
Yeah.
So these are questions that help you to check whether students have understood your instructions or not. For example, you have asked your students to write sentences about themselves. Yes. What question can you ask them to check whether they have understood?
For example, if we learned past simple, I can ask student what he did yesterday.
Okay, let's make a question about the instructions. For example, again, the instructions. Let me give you the instruction. Please write 5 sentences about yourself, where 2 sentences are true about you and 3 sentences are false about you. What questions can you ask to check whether I have understood the instruction? So it should be a question about instructions. For example, do you need to write about yourself or about your friends? You can answer me.
It can be both or not.
Okay, one more time, listen to my instructions. Are you listening? Yes?
Yes, I'm a little bit
Tired. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen again, we are almost done. Listen to the instructions again. Write 5 sentences about yourself, where 2 sentences are true about you and 3 sentences are false about you. My ICQ is, do you need to write about yourself or about your friend?
About yourself.
Yes, about me. Do you see that that is called an ICQ? I asked
see.
you, yeah, a question about instruction. So let's talk about the same instructions. Yeah, try to give me another example of an ICQ. What other question can you ask? How many sentences should be true? A nice question.
Yes.
Yeah, you see, yeah, you see,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, or how many sentences should be false, right?
Yeah.
So it should be questions about instructions, not about the content. Great. And when you are done, one tiny thing that teachers tend to forget is time limits. You should give your students time that they have to in order to complete this task. For example, how much time you would give them for this task?
3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, why not? Like, remember, throughout the whole training sessions, I gave you time limits. Did I give you time limits for every task?
Yes.
Yeah. Was it helpful?
Yes, of course. It's make us quickly.
Yeah, sure. You're trying to complete the task as fast as possible, yes? Okay, great. So these are 4 things that you need to consider while giving instructions. Let's move next. What would you match with grouping?
Open class, individual pair group, and Mingle.
That's right. So these are types of interactions that we can use in a classroom, right? And one of you has mentioned that we need to vary them. We need to use all of them in order to have a smooth and balanced lesson, right? For example, for a brainstorming, what would you use? What type of interaction would you use?
Open class, it can be,
Of course,
Or-
open class. Or
or in some exercises or some brainstorm, it can be also a group, like in
Yes.
challenge.
that's right, very nice. So like you cannot put it like an individual work, it would be a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move next. What about a controlled grammar practice task? Where students, for example, need to open the brackets and put the verbs.
Individual.
That's right. Would it be a good decision to put it as a group activity?
Can you repeat, please?
Would it be okay to give such task like a group activity?
It can be, but it will be better to do individually.
That's right. So please try to make sure that interaction patterns correspond to the activities that you do. Okay, let's move next. What about monitoring? What can be wrong with monitoring?
It's check, support, control, and fast finisher.
That's right. So monitoring means when you give a task to your students, you monitor, you watch them. You don't relax somewhere, yes, but you need to watch your students and you need to monitor how they are performing this task, yes? So for example, if we talk about an online class, it's a great mistake when a teacher stays in the main session while students are completing some tasks in the breakout sessions. It's not possible, yes? You need to join every breakout session and monitor and check what your students are doing there. If you're working offline, you cannot just sit and relax at the teacher's table, yes, and enjoy your time. You should circle around the classroom and you should monitor what your students are doing. Agree, Marta? Or you sit and relax?
Yes. No, you have to be aware of what the students are doing.
That's right.
I'm sorry that I got out. I had problems with my connection.
That's okay. So I'm really glad you're back. So yes, we cannot relax neither in online nor in offline classroom, right? So, but the question is here, we do not only check, yes? We are checking what our students are doing, we are controlling. This is the time when we can support our learners. So for example, if you join a breakout session or if you come to a table, yes, and you see some students, weaker students who are struggling with the task, it's your time to support and to help them. Or for example, you join a breakout session and everybody is silent. Okay, you checked and you go back to the main session. No, you need to support, you need to assist, and you need to make sure the students are able to complete the task. And that is a great time to spot fast finishers. Marta, who are fast finishers?
Well, the students who cope with tasks quite fast and then sit around and don't have anything to do. And then they start maybe distracting other students.
That's right.
Then they start distracting other students and
yeah, and maybe they are noisy sometimes, yes, and sometimes they even misbehave. So that is the problem of our teacher, not of students. So you cannot leave such students and let them wait. No, you as teachers should give them some extra tasks or extra sentences to write, or for example, extend somehow the activity. For example, if they are done with reading, you can ask them to read the text again and to find 5 adjectives. That's just an example, yes? Or if they are ready and like they are really annoyed when they are ready and they want to do something, you can ask them to go to the board and write the answers on the board. So keep them busy, all right? Don't just leave them and don't let them relax in class. And the last one, Marta, maybe you would like to match. So feedback, what would you match here on the right?
yes, it's about content and errors, self-compare on the spot.
and deck.
Yes, yes.
And deck.
And also
That's right.
deck. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So deck means what?
I'm sure that I think I don't really understand what that means.
Delayed. I will help you. Delayed.
Mhm.
Error. Delayed error. Yulia, maybe you? Delayed error correction. Yeah. So when we do not correct on the spot, but we correct after the activity is done, right? Delayed. That's why it's called delayed correction. So what mistakes, yeah, with correction, with feedback, you should avoid? First of all, of course, you need to correct. It's clear. You cannot just listen and not correct. But make sure you pay attention to the content, yeah, to the content of what your students are doing. For example, if they have a discussion or a brainstorming, like Yulia told us, you need first of all to check what they were discussing, what ideas they come up with, what are their opinions. It would be like naturally to ask what they were talking about before saying them, I mentioned some mistakes, so let's correct them. Now, first, naturally, you would ask them about the content, about what they were discussing, what ideas they have. And then after that, you would come and correct them, right? So make sure you pay attention to the content and you give feedback on content. You will have workshops throughout the term and you will talk more about the content. But for you, just to keep in mind that focus on content is also important. When it comes to correction, you as teachers, naturally, I am a teacher, I need to correct. But what might be better than just correction? Yulia, maybe you have some ideas?
I haven't ideas.
I see you're tired. Okay, you will listen. Marta?
Maybe if they mispronunciated a word, you tell them how to pronounce the word correctly, or not point out that they made a mistake, but point out that there's a better solution for pointing out a sentence or a word.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, or we have discussed eliciting with you, yes? So we should, first of all, reduce our teacher talking time. We should let our students speak more. So if students can correct themselves, for example, you just give them a hint, oh, something goes wrong here. Yeah, so please correct yourself. So you can give them a chance to self-correct. So they can, sometimes they can correct themselves. Or if they can't correct, you can ask their classmates to help them. Yeah. So make sure that you do not correct only on your own, but you involve students into correction. All right. And yeah, and we also have on the spot and deck. Actually, that is a huge topic, a separate topic, but what might be really important for you for the very first lessons of the course. We correct on the spot immediately when we do some controlled practice tasks, like grammar task, when we need to fill in the gaps, or when we need to choose the correct answer, some really controlled tasks concerning grammar or vocabulary. But when students have a speaking activity, when they talk to each other, or when they brainstorm, when they share opinion, when they work in breakout sessions, our task as teachers is to monitor, to write down the mistakes, to take notes, and after the activity is done, we need to provide delayed correction. So when students are done with the discussion, they come back to the main session, or you grab their attention again in the class if you're working at the office. You ask them about what they were discussing, what ideas they come with, and only after that you give the correction. You say them, guys, I have noticed some mistakes. Yes, let's try to correct them. So you put them on the whiteboard, or you put them on the board on Zoom, you put their mistakes, and you ask students to correct their own mistakes. So it would be an ideal way to work with speaking activities. So when we work on grammar, we have controlled grammar tasks, we can interrupt and correct on the spot immediately. But when we have a speaking activity, yes, we need to wait, listen, and only after feedback on content, we need to give corrections. Any questions so far? No? So I suggest, so there is a lot about feedback, there is a lot about checking answers and monitoring on your glossary. I suggest you look through it again, you watch the videos, you read some tips, yes, and you will have like more understanding of how to correct, when to correct, and what techniques you might use. Let's go back 1 second. Let's go back to our very first slide. 1 second. And let's look at these statements again. Have you changed your mind regarding number 7 and 9? Because at the beginning of our training session, you had doubt. So is number 7 true or false?
I would say that number 7 is false.
And why?
Yes, because we can't skip lead-ins, we can't skip bridges and the warm-ups, because the lesson won't be as smooth and logical as it should be. So we shouldn't skip them.
Yeah, I agree. Yulia, what about number 9? Do you still think that it is true, or you think it's false?
It's false because we need to ask ICQ questions.
Yeah, so we need to ask a question that concerns our instructions or our explanations, right?
Yes.
It's actually not forbidden, but it's like a strict rule, a strict recommendation for teachers. Never ask, do you understand, or is it clear? Just try to notice whenever you want to ask such question, stop, okay? Don't ask such questions. Okay, and number 2, do we still think it might be true? Or we think it's always false? So true or false?
It's true.
True. What about anticipating? If you know your students, can you anticipate some problems that might arise during the class while preparing?
If you know them well, you can do it. But if it is the first time, when you
of course. So for the first lesson, you think it's not possible, right?
Yeah.
I agree, but with time, it's possible and it's a must, yes, to anticipate the problems. Marta, do you agree?
Well, yes, I agree. But sometimes you can even, getting ready for the lesson, you can see that in the vocabulary, you may have difficult words, which, so you can sometimes predict that, oh, students may have some students can struggle with pronunciating this kind of word because it might be a little bit complicated for them. Or you can predict that it's sometimes maybe good to brainstorm and see what could go wrong and how could you solve it, how could you solve such problems. So yes, if they arise, just in case. But
that's right.
Yes, if you have problems, you should solve them. And so
that's right.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so Marta has mentioned one very important point. For example, if you have a listening or a reading task, of course, you would look through the text or you would listen to a recording. And if you spot some difficult words that would prevent your students from understanding the text, we call it blocking vocabulary. So for example, to understand the main idea of the text, students need to understand some words, but you're 100% sure they will not. So you need to think how you will pre-teach this vocabulary before giving the text to students. It's sometimes written in the lesson plans, but anyway, please mind, when you look through the text and you see, oh, my students will not know these words, I will need to give them the explanations, yes, or I will need to give them the picture so that they could understand. So please do it before the lesson. Okay, thank you so much. 1 second.